Yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Now today's video is our this or that video. And what that is, in case you've never watched any of our this or that videos, they're usually where I ask you a question like about crochet or knitting, yarn, crafts, arts, different questions that people have asked me. And then I give you the chance to give your opinion about the question as well by commenting down in the comment section below. All right? So today our question has to do with, I bought a pattern, or I found a pattern I love. I found yarn to go with it that it calls for, but they're using a different crochet hook than what the yarn calls for. What do I do, and what crochet hook do I use? So here is the question. Would you use the crochet hook that the pattern calls for, or would you use the crochet hook that the yarn has listed or suggested on the label? Now I'm asking this question because I get lots of questions about this. And so I have this lacy wrap here. This is our change of season wraps. I'll put the link down in the notes under the video if you want to make one. It is made out of a cotton. This is not a cotton. I'm using this as an example because this is an open and lacy work type pattern. Okay? And this yarn is a light 3. This cotton is not. But what I want to show you is that sometimes when a designer designs something for a pattern and maybe they want it to be an open or lacy work, they will go up a hook size or two in order to accomplish that. Okay, this one here recommends a G hook. I don't know if you can see that. And if you don't know how to find that, here is your weight of the yarn. This is your knitting needle instructions, and this is your crochet hook, meaning it gives you how to make a swatch and what's the recommended size. This one says 4mm USG 6. So that's a G hook, which is a 4mm. I have one right here. Okay, but I wanted this to be lacy, and we're going to just assume that I'm using this yarn. I did not have an open and lacy type work for this yarn because I haven't used it yet, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But I wanted you to understand what I meant when I said open and lacy type work. I'm sure you do, but just as an example. Okay, so let's say I'm going to use this light 3. It calls for a 4mm, but I want to make it open and lacy and flowy. I might even go up to an I hook to make those stitches bigger. Because if you look at these 3 hooks, you can see they are not the same size. This is a 4mm, this is a 5, and this is a 5.5. And you can see there's not a lot of difference, but there is more difference between that G to that I. But where we measure that difference is this part right here on what's called the shank or the neck of the crochet hook. Okay? And so sometimes a designer, if they want it to be open and lacy, will go up a hook size. Another example is if this is a 3 weight, but I want it really snug and tight, I might even go down farther lower to a smaller hook size because I want it to be close and tight. And I do that sometimes with some of my big thick yarns if I'm making like a stuffy or a pillow. So an example of that is something like this. It's a stuffy. I stitched my stitches nice and tight so that the stuffing doesn't show through on the stitches. And so a designer might go down a hook size, instead of maybe using an N, might even, or, a 9mm, might go down and even use a J in order to get those stitches nice and tight, so that the stuffing doesn't show through those stitches. Okay, and so it really depends on the pattern. Now almost every yarn gives you a suggested knitting or crochet hook size. Okay, but remember, when you buy a pattern or you get a pattern for free or wherever you got your pattern, they're going by the style and what they're doing with it, okay? And so my suggestion really is just to go with what the pattern says. And so again, my suggestion to you is first try the crochet hook size that the designer of the pattern or that the pattern calls for. If you're not getting the results you want, you can always adjust going up or down. Sometimes different designers have different tension, and that's another thing to keep in mind. I tend to crochet a little bit looser than some of the other designers who might crochet a little bit tighter. And I know, as much as we hate making swatches, sometimes if you're not sure, what I usually do, especially if I'm going to make something small like this, I might do a couple of rounds with the hook that it calls for, and then I think, that's too loose or that's too tight, and then I adjust to go up or down a hook size. A place where that's really important is, say, hats, where you're wanting a certain size around and it's just not working out. It's too tiny or it's too big. You can always adjust that by going up or down a hook size. And so I'm really curious as to if you would do that, because I think that when you're more comfortable in doing that sort of thing, your crochet is going to get more easy and you're going to be more fulfilled and not so frustrated with your crochet. Understanding that you can adjust your hook size. All right. Maybe the pattern does call for a bigger hook because they want it more lacy, but you yourself, you don't. You want the stitches tighter, so you can go down a hook size. And so that is where your tape measure is really important. If you're adjusting a hat, measure as you go. Make sure it's going to fit. If you're trying to make a certain size of a shawl, but you want your stitches tighter, you may need to do more rows or more increases in order for it to fit the size that you need. Maybe you're trying to make it smaller. You've gone down a couple hook sizes and now it's just way too small. Measure as you go. Don't finish the whole project and then go, oh man, the hat hits me at the chin, or I can't get the shawl around my shoulders. Believe me, I've done those things. And I learned when I was first crocheting, one of the books I had really, really emphasized measure as you go. Tape measures are your very best friend when it comes to crochet. Well, I hope I answered that question for you all. That's one of those questions I get often. And so I just wanted to give you my opinion, and I hope you'll give me yours. So comment down below in that comment section. Remember, I love to read your comments, and I hope that you love to read each other's as well, because we can all learn from each other in this great, big, wonderful crochet community. Well, thank you for being with me today, and I'll see you next time for another edition of This or That. Bye-bye now.